Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah Beth and today we're gonna do a reading recap for the last few months because I have not done a reading wrap up in a little while. Every time I procrastinate doing one of these, like I'm like, oh, I only read 6 books this month, that's not worth making a whole wrap up video. And then I put it off to the next month and then 3 months go by. 3 months is my limit, I feel like. If I have like a crazy productive 3 reading months, or 3 months of reading, I hate filming these. However, I only have, I think, 14 books. So I did my hair differently today. I'm not sure how I feel about it because this is a lot of volume. I'm like looking at it in the camera. There's just a lot going on. So we're gonna start, this is for June, July, and August reads. I do think I have several 5-star reads in here, which is really exciting that I haven't talked about really at all, except just to tell you that I read them in my TBR videos. So we're gonna start off strong with an Abby Jimenez book. I love Abby Jimenez. I read The Friend Zone, which is the first one in the order, this little interconnected trilogy. I read that whenever it came out. I picked it up at like Target going on spring break in college. I wouldn't say that was like the book that got me back into reading, but well, I guess it sort of was. I read that and was like, ooh, I miss reading books. And so then I started to read like every once in a while, but I would say A Court of Thorns and Roses is probably what kickstarted this like really intense reading habit. Anyways, so this is the second one and it follows a character from the first one, you know, interconnected standalones and whatnot. And she's dealing with a really tragic loss. And the way this couple meets is honestly kind of funny. And he's a musician, which is just like a fun little twist to it. And I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it. I think a lot of people don't like this little interconnected set of 3. I really liked The Friend Zone and I really like this one. And now the only Abby Jimenez book I have left is whatever comes after this one, Life's Too Short. I would say her writing is weaker, but I do agree that the other set of 3, Yours Truly, Part of Your World, Just for the Summer, are arguably like stronger writing wise and probably plot wise. First read of June was a hit. Then I read Expiration Dates. I was really looking forward to this one because I had seen so many people talking about it, normally like the same kind of books that I like. Everyone was telling me it was magical realism and I love magical realism. I just have a lot of issues with this book. I gave it 3.5. I immediately felt like I knew kind of the direction the plot was gonna go in. My only thing is like we never get an answer to essentially like the big question in this book, which bothered me. I don't know. I just didn't, this wasn't my favorite. It wasn't bad. It also was really short. I wanted more romance. And if you read this book, if you've read this book, you understand who I want the romance from. But if you haven't read this, the concept is that this girl, whenever she meets, I don't know if it's just, I think it's just like a guy that asks her out or she's interested in, but she gets a note just like randomly, like sometimes it's on a receipt stuck to the bottom of her shoe when she walks out of the store, or like it's written on her coffee cup, whatever, but it has like the guy's name and how long they'll be in her life or they'll be together, I guess, I think. At the beginning of the book, she goes on a date with a guy and then her note for this guy says, I think it says forever or it just has no end time. That is the plot of this book. But yeah, I give it 3.5. It wasn't my fave. The magical realism wasn't very magical realism at all to me, so I probably wouldn't recommend it, but it could be a hit or miss. It was a solid 3-star read. In June, I read my first Ellen Hildebrand book. I read The Blue Beastro. This just made me feel like I needed to go be in like some sort of high, fast-paced restaurant. It also kind of made me want to watch The Bear, if you guys have seen like trailers for that show. If you don't know about Ellen Hildebrand, all of her books up until this point have been set in Nantucket. This one is set in a restaurant called the Blue Beastro, which is like a high-end restaurant in Nantucket that is basically always booked out. People are always trying to get in and this girl needs a job and she shows up with like no experience. It's the last summer that the Blue Beastro is gonna be open. They're closing at the end of the summer. I gave it a 4 because the romance, I don't want to say it felt weird, but it was definitely like way on the back burner and I just kind of wish it hadn't been a part of the plot at all because the book didn't need it. But like then when it happened, it just felt weird to me personally. But I loved the like setting and all the characters and I was very invested because there's something going on in the book that like clearly all the characters know except for the main character and you're trying to understand, like you're trying to figure out what's happening alongside the main character. I did like that part of it. I'm excited to read more Ellen Hildebrand books. I'm hoping I can read like the Winter Garden, Winter Street, those in winter time. Next up, I read Darling Girls, and this book really took me for a roller coaster of a ride. I feel like, for me personally, I like to go into thrillers pretty blind, so all I knew is that there were, is it 3 girls? Yes, there were 3 foster kids who essentially grew up together, these 3 girls, think of each other as sisters. So a body is discovered in the house that they like grew up in. Now there's like being a lot of questions asked and they're trying to figure out like what happened, and you're going between the past in the girl's perspective and then you have this perspective in present day that you don't necessarily like know who it is until the end. I feel like this ended on kind of, I don't want to say a weird note, but I didn't love how it ended. I think it could have been wrapped up differently or like left open-ended, I guess, differently. But if you're looking for a good thriller, honestly, I would really recommend this one. I was very interested in it. I read it, I like flew through it. I don't want to tell you anything else because I don't want to give anything away. Next up, I had The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I love When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect. This was a little disappointing to me. I read this mostly because I want to read the rule book and I've loved the other Sarah Adams books I've read. And so I really wanted to read this one, and I feel like you can just tell this is something she wrote a lot earlier, y'all. I want to tolerate this hair. I really do. But I feel like I look like knockoff Dolly Parton with how much volume we're cooking with. What is happening? I didn't do anything that should have given me like hair to the height of Texas. Good Lord. This one, they are essentially like they friend zoned each other, I'm pretty sure. And then he's an NFL player that's like really famous. And then she runs like a nonprofit ballet studio and they have something go viral and they have to fake date. Clearly they're both interested in each other from the get-go. I feel like this just felt silly. So I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. Going to read the rule book and then I'll see if I feel like reading this is kind of like worth reading the rule book kind of thing. But overall, I wouldn't probably say to pick that one up because I feel like you could find a better romance out there that would suit your mood. Classic Graham, he has taken a book and I don't know where he's put it, but I also read The City of Bones. I've not read any Cassandra Clare, so this was a first for me. I honestly really enjoyed the world. I don't normally like urban fantasy. The setting of Crescent City is okay to me, but I read something else that was urban. I really hated it. Like a lot of the time I don't enjoy urban fantasy, but I liked this one. Obviously, if you've read this book, you know how it ends. I did not know any spoilers. I mean, I still don't. So I didn't know about that little piece of information, that little nugget. I hate that. That knocked it from a 5 to a 4, or like a 4.5 to a 4 to me. I honestly was like flying through it, really, really liked it. And then all of a sudden that happened and I was like, I just don't know how we come back from this, personally. I mean, I have some theories, but I also don't know. And if you don't know what these are about somehow, it's set in like present day and there's angels. No, are there angels? No. Are there angels? All I can remember is that there's demons and demon hunters called shadow hunters, I think. That's what I'm going with. I read this 2 months ago and now my brain's left the building. You're following a girl, of course, who like thinks she's normal until she's not. And you've got like kind of what I'm gonna anticipate being like a found family scenario. And really, that's all I can kind of remember about it. It ended on a bit of a cliffhanger and a weird note, like I've said. So I gave it 4. We'll see how I like the second one, because boy, did I have mixed feelings at it at the end. And then I read The Scent Keeper and I gave this 5 stars. I have never seen anyone talk about this. It is a Reese's book club pick. I got it at like a Second and Charles or Half Price Books for I think like $3. I think it popped up in my Goodreads like recommended based off of like other magical realism books I'd read. This is very different than the normal magical realism, I would say. I don't know how to explain it without giving it away. So I will just tell you the plot of the book and just know that what I'm telling you, no, you know what? No, I'm not gonna tell you the extra bit. I'm just gonna tell you the plot of the book. This girl has literally grown up on a an island all on its own with her dad. Basically, the walls of their home are lined with like these bottles that have scents trapped in them. And her dad won't tell her where they like come from or what they mean or how they work and whatnot. And so she has literally grown up on this remote island, has never seen or interact. Well, I think she sees people on boats. She hides from them. She doesn't interact with people. The only person she's interacted with is her dad. And so she grows up on this island, and then obviously at some point something happens and she leaves. And she is trying to understand society. She's definitely a teenager when she leaves the island. So like her social skills are not what they should be. I absolutely could not put this down. I had to know what was happening. The writing was very beautiful. I want to see if there's anything else by this author. I was just immediately transported and felt like I was in the story, which I love in a book like this. And if you like magical realism, or if you just like literary fiction, I feel like this would be really great. It has the same kind of vibes as like Where the Crawdads Sing, and like the sense of her being like isolated and whatnot. I mean, it was just so good. I want people to read this. I really enjoyed it, and it's very short. It's under 300 pages. This would be a great book for book club, like for people to discuss. I definitely recommend it. And then in July, this is really easy, I read the first 2 books in the Windy City series, which is Mile High and The Right Move. I gave them both 4 stars. These are sports romances. The first one is hockey, and then the second one is basketball. If you read sports romances, I feel like you just know kind of how those go. Like, it was just a quick, fun read. There was nothing crazy about it. I did love their romance in both books. I was very attached to characters and I want to know what happened. And I will be continuing and reading the next ones. I know a lot of people really hate the first book in this, and they say to skip it. It wasn't that off-putting to me. I didn't mind. I ended up loving their romance. So that was all I read in July. That was the month where I had to pack my whole home and then leave. So it was a slow reading month. This past month in August, I read Blood and Steel and Vows and Ruins, which are the first 2 books. What is the series called? The Legends of Thesmar. I read both of these, and I really loved the first one. 4.5, 4.75 territory, like almost 5 stars. There was just a little bit where it didn't give that perfect 5-star feeling. 4.5, I really loved the first book. Second book fell a little bit flat to me. It definitely feels like we're building up to the next book. I mean, that happens. I gave it a 3.5. You're gonna ask me, Sarah Beth, what are these books about? Basically, I'm gonna do my best to explain this, and it's probably gonna be terrible. Our main character, she, like her whole life, all she's wanted to be is like a warrior. And there's this prophecy that we read at the beginning of the book that basically prevents women from being warriors, soldiers, however you want to phrase it. And they can't touch weapons, or else basically it's going to bring impending doom upon the world. And she has had this, not blade. Why can't I think of the word? Like a dagger. She's had this dagger like since she was 6, I feel like, is how it feels in the book. And obviously the impending doom. She's still kicking, the world's still going. So she just really wants to be a soldier or a warrior. You are following in the first book her journey to becoming that. And then there's these, like, I can't remember what they're called, but there are these people that are like the best of the best warriors. They go through this like crazy thing. There used to be a lot of them, and then something happened, and now there's only 3. She is interacting with one that is just, he's very, you know, dark and broody and rude. They're partnered up on a quest-esque thing for her. I loved the first book, and now how the second book ended felt crazy to me. I did see a part of this ending of the cliffhanger coming, but not like the full cliffhanger, if that makes sense. Like, I had one piece of the puzzle when it's much larger. Overall, I mean, right now where I stand, I would recommend these, despite the second book only being 3.5 stars. Like I said, I loved the first one. I would love to finish that series this month. That would be crazy great. I also read the next Naturals book. I read Killer Instinct. These are fun. I think I liked this one just as much as I liked the first one, and I'm really excited the way this one ended to read the third one. If you don't know, these are like teens with not super abilities, but they are really good at reading emotions or detecting lies, and so they work with the FBI on cold cases. Except, of course, they somehow are always involved in a real case. And this is the second one. The first book book is The Naturals, and I honestly just really like these. They're fun, they're easy, the font is enormous, and when this one ended, I immediately went and bought the last two so that I could just pick them up and read them and enjoy them at my leisure. I gave this 4.5 stars. I think if I had read those because they're YA, I think if I had read those when I was in like high school or middle school, they would be like god tier books to me and my brain, but reading them as an adult, it's just a little different. Another book of Where Did Graham Take is The Long Game by Elena Armas. If you don't know, I'm a huge Spanish Love Deception fan. It is one of my favorite books. I love that book so much. I own 2 other books by Elena Armas and I haven't read them, and so I picked this one up because it's about, our main character is like the head of like PR essentially for a soccer team. I guess like a pro team, I'm not 100%, like a major league team, I'm not sure. That part I'm not clear on. And her dad is like the owner of the club, and she goes viral for something that happens at the club that's not good, and so her dad sends her to this like really rural small town to help revamp this team of 9-year-old girls, and she does not know that until she gets there, and she's like, why am I here? But what she doesn't know is that the coach of the 9-year-old girls is like this huge soccer star who randomly retired and like just basically disappeared off the face of the earth. So, you know, she gets there and is trying to figure everything out. It's like set in this wilderness North Carolina town. Despite the fact that I don't think it's like really fall at the start of the book, it felt very fall. I definitely would recommend reading it right now if you wanted like a romance that's like not like the X-Hex level of like fall in your face. Something that feels like it fits the vibe. I overall really enjoyed this, liked their romance and their banter and a lot of the scenes. Overall, it was just a good, fun, quick romance read that I liked. So I give it 4 stars. I definitely would recommend it. I want to read the next one, The Fiancé Dilemma, because we see them at the end of the first book and I am so excited for that book. And then the last book I have read recently was When the Moon Hatched, and I get it. 5 million stars. I'm obsessed with this book. I totally understand the people that feel like it's slow. I mean, really, this feels like it's 2 books. Like, this was a book and then this was a whole separate book. Normally, I feel like I say, if you don't like a book at 30%, you could probably DNF. This would be a book where I feel like it's kind of Crescent City-like, where there is so much world building for you to get to the part that's like super cool right here, and like it's going to, at least I would hope, continue to be cool and interesting, but like you have to get here, you need here. There could have maybe been some stuff taken out, but overall, this is everything I love about fantasy. Everything I love about fantasy. I'm so upset that I think we have to wait until 2025 for the next book. I want it right now. I immediately looked it up because I was like, please tell me it's coming out in like November. No, when is it coming out? Because it's devastating. I'll tell you what it's about in a second. Yeah, so the sequel of this comes out October 2025. That makes me want to cry. I feel as though this book is very hard to explain because, like I said, at 40%, there is a shift in the plot. But basically, this book has dragons, not like 4th wing dragons. If you can get a dragon's egg and like tame the dragon, then like that's your dragon and you're kind of like bonded, I guess. And I think they feel very attached to their companion. When they're like about to die, they like fly up into the sky and curl up into a ball. And so like in their world, the sky is littered with all these moons and their dragons that have passed away, which I just thought was just so beautiful. So our main character, Rave, she is, I guess, an assassin, like a paid assassin for this terrible group of people. She has like no family, 1 friend. The way their magic works is like there's different kinds of, I'm gonna call them spirits. I don't know how to explain it. People they hear, what are they called? The creators. That's what it's called. Yeah, so there's 5 creators. It's like air, earth, water, fire, ether? Okay, ground, ether, air, fire, and water. If you hear them, you get like each one you can hear, you get like a bead in your ear, and then if you can't hear any of them, you're called a null, and you get like this thing that denotes that you don't have any magical abilities. There are these three brothers that are like essentially tyrant kings to her best of her understanding, and something happens to Rave where she is going to encounter one of these kings, and a whole series of events unfolds from that. And that is really all I think you should know going into this. And just know that at like 40%, the book really takes like a left turn. You're like, where you were to where you are now, not the same. I loved this. I love this, I love this, I love this. It was so great. I now need to go buy the real book because I have the indie one and I want my books to match when the next one comes out. But I cannot recommend this enough. Like I said, I wouldn't give up on it till like 45%. I'm pretty sure I just figured out what was wrong with my hair the whole time, and it was that my hair was parted wrong. But now I think it looks crazy in a different way. Anyways, that is all the books I have read recently. I had some really good reads overall. I just have been reading a little slower due to the move and stuff, but I'm hoping I get to read a lot of books this month. I have a lot that I'm really, really excited for, and I'm definitely in the mood to read, which is always the best feeling. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.